what is the importance of understanding how to master our emotions, and what is emotional intelligence really?
Okay. What I may say may sound a little unorthodox to some, so be prepared. We have different layers in the brain, and we have in the forebrain an executive center, executive functioning area, and we have subcortically underneath that an amygdala, and in between that a portion of the limbic system. And some people have defined our brain as having systems 1 and systems 2 thinking. One is survival, the other is thrival. One is feeling before you think, and the other is thinking before you feel, kind of thing. And whenever you have an imbalanced perspective, you immediately put on the feeler. And whenever you have a balanced perspective, you put on the thinker. Now, what does that mean? Well, the amygdala is designed for seeking prey and avoiding predator. And so things that support our values in life that we are infatuated with, we become conscious of the upsides, unconscious of the downsides. And we activate the nucleus accumbens and the impulses to seek it. And we in order to survive, to get food, prey. And when somehow we've become conscious of the downsides, unconscious of the upsides, and things challenge our values, we now have an instinct to avoid it. And so the two most basic feelings is seek and avoid. Prey and predator, pleasure and pain, reward and punishment, if you will. And the fear of loss of the things we seek and the fear of gain of the things we're trying to avoid are the two primary fears that underlie all fears that we face in life. Now, the executive center is designed to govern and dampen the amplitude of those polarities and to bring them more into a balanced homeostatic state for thriving. And that's called objectivity. Objectivity means neutral-minded, versus subjectivity, which is a biased, opinionated-minded polarity that's needed for survival. Now, most of the time we don't need survival. We can be thriving, but we are trapped in survival mentality sometimes. So if we balance out our perspective and find the upsides to the things we are avoiding and the downsides to the things we are seeking, and balance it and extract the mean out of it, as Aristotle said, the golden mean, we move from systems 1 to systems 2 thinking. We go from feeling to thought. And then we have foresight or foresight instead of hindsight, if you will. Now, there are two types of feelings. There are emotional polarized feelings: joy, sorrow, happy, sad, seek, avoid, pleasure, pain, elation, depression, admiration, despise, these parts, which are fractionated partial awarenesses. We're upside, we're seeing the upside, but we don't see the downside. Or we see the downside, we don't see the upside. And then there are synthesized feelings, where you see both sides simultaneously. And these feelings are true love. Not the romantic love of infatuation, which most people confuse as love, which is dopamine driven, but true love, an agape love, an unconditional love, true grace, true inspiration, true entheos, enthusiasm, not excitement, which many people confuse with enthusiasm, but true enthusiasm, which is a poised state, true certainty. You're not in a wavering emotional state with partial awareness, and true presence. Those feelings are very profound, and they're a sign that we are seeing the whole, not the parts. And they spontaneously come out when we live by our highest value and are living authentically in a balanced way. See, when we infatuate with something, we tend to minimize ourselves. And when we resent something, we tend to exaggerate ourselves. We're too humble to admit what we see in others inside us. We're too proud to admit what we see in others inside us. We have a deflected awareness. We're too proud or too humble to see on the outside what's inside us. And we live inauthentically. Because when you're proud, you're exaggerating yourself. When you're ashamed, you're minimizing yourself. But when you are yourself, and you see on the outside of balance, and you see on the inside of balance, the transcendental feelings come alive. And now those are magnetically attractive because people want to be authentic and they want to be loved for who they are. And so anybody who demonstrates that draws and magnetizes people to them. And so when I share feelings, I rarely show an emotion. I show a feeling that's transcendental. And I document on a daily basis what I'm grateful for. And if I see the upsides without the down, I find the downsides to counterbalance it. Otherwise, I'm infatuated. And if I see the downside, I find the other side. And I don't stop until I get a tear of gratitude. And that tear of gratitude is a very, very powerful state that is magnetic, and that is what keeps you vitalized and keeps you inspired on a daily basis and grateful. Peter Lynch, in his book, One Up on Wall Street, said, when I'm deciding what stocks to buy, this is in the 90s, I do my technical and quantitative analysis. And then after I've got some stocks picked, I then go and get on my plane and I go and visit the actual headquarters of where these companies are. And I look for four things: people grateful for their job, loving what they do, inspired by the vision, enthusiastically working, highly skilled and engaged, which means certainty, and they're present with the customer or present with their project. He said, if I do that, I can guarantee that company is going to appreciate value. And I really believe that that same thing occurs in us if we live our lives by the transcendental feelings and balance out our equation and the quality of our lives based on the quality of the questions we ask. We too can have that same state and appreciate and value in the contributions and service we can provide.
Wow, that's huge. I love that. That's a really great explanation for that question. And I'm curious to dive into that piece where you were talking about the kind of, you've had a really successful business life from my observations, and I want to go down that journey. But before we go there, I'm really curious to ask and to relate, particularly with relating to younglings and children coming of age who can often at times have quite expressive emotional experiences and not necessarily have that, intellectual articulation of understanding of how their own brain is working or how they can drop into a state of gratitude. But there is this innate, sense that they are in this transcendental state, even though their brains haven't fully developed and they haven't matured into the being an adult, let's say. But I'm just curious, particularly even in the world, I feel it would have been great to have, learned some of this amazing knowledge that you're sharing with adults when I was a teenager or younger as well, to have that development earlier on. And it seems the world is evolving and growing, and education is shifting in that sense. But I guess, how do we also support the next generation who are coming alive, millennials or even younger, with and I sense it's really focusing on that early age, on that imprint period, to encourage them by example, like you're sharing in that gratitude practice. But what else can we do to really support the younglings coming of age to fully grasp the intelligence that's required with their emotions?
Well,